Welcome to the Cockney Guide to Enlightenment podcast. My name's Stephen Rosen, and in this podcast we go beneath the surface of people's lives to find out what makes them tick. My own life I wrote about in this book, Lost in the Babylon. It's through childhood adversity, organised crime and a successful life as a businessman in the city. When I talk to people, we go beneath the surface of where they got to in their lives and we find out what really makes them tick. So if you want to follow me, connect to me with social media at Cockney Profit. And if you enjoy this podcast, please like it, subscribe or follow us and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Cockney Guide to Enlightenment podcast. I'm Stephen Rosen and my guest today is Edward Hyde. Ed, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Stephen.
Great.
Yeah, it's cool to be here.
Really nice. And we've had so much conversation already just over a coffee earlier.
We have.
But I'll just a bit of an introduction. I met Ed. He's a local business owner who's got a gym and I'm sure a lot more going on.
Yep.
But the reason that I asked Ed on the podcast was I overheard him kind of just chatting with one of his clients. I think he was doing a bit of personal training at the time.
Yep.
And it was so different to what I'd expect to hear in a gym, you know.
Yeah.
He was kind of challenging the person on some of their kind of ideas because they was talking about, you know, personal life stuff as well as what they was doing. So he was kind of challenging them and kind of, you know, just really drawing them into like a different way to look at things. They're like, so, you know, more like holding a mirror up to them. So it was more like he was life coaching someone as well as you was training someone. And I just thought, you know, in the context of the gym and, you know, it's not like a super high-end gym, is it? It's just like a real down-to-earth, you know, we're here to work sort of gym. Yeah. And I thought it was just so refreshing, you know what I mean, to hear that. And I thought this guy's really got an interesting way about him and I'd really like to know a bit more about him. So here you are.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Yeah.
How long you been in that business in?
So I've been in the kind of fitness domain for about 13 years. Prior to that, I was doing some other bits. And again, we were talking off camera, but I had a few businesses. I guess an entrepreneur, brought up by an entrepreneur. My dad was an entrepreneur and, you know, we always had those conversations as a kid. And he said, look, if you want to kind of have the freedom and be your own boss, you know, you need to go on your own kind of thing, which kind of led on to, am I going to take over the family business? Because the old man was a successful businessman. But I came from quite a creative mindset, I think, you know, for myself as a child. You know, art was my thing. Yeah. I started out life, I'm going back a little bit, but I guess this sets a story.
Yeah, let's go back
so after school, I took a bit of time out and I was always kind of had pen on paper, really enjoyed just that as an outlet. That and kind of more sport, but like what you class back then as extreme sport. You know, I like snowboarding, skateboarding, surfing, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, that creative side of me was always, you know, longing for something in I think the fitness domain at that time, but I didn't realise it, but also to have some sort of career in possibly art. So anyway, I was at St Martin's after school, which is an art school.
St Martin's, in London. Yeah.
In London, and I did a foundation in art and design. I then, after that, kind of went into jewellery design there, and I was doing that for about a year, but it didn't land right with me at the time. And I stepped back from that and I went back into doing graphic design, and I studied that for a couple of years, but again, wasn't quite settled enough. And I'm just trying to think of the timeline here. So having kind of menial jobs, like I was working on building sites and just, you know, earning a bit of cash in the pocket, doing labouring and things like that. And from that point, my best pal at the time was doing hospitality at university while I was doing the creative side of things at university. And his dream was always to have a bar and nightclub. And he kind of approached me about it, and I was a bit of a lost soul at that point, thinking, well, I don't know what I want to do.
What sort of age were you in?
I would say, mid to late 20s by that point, after kind of coming out of university, taking a bit of time, dipping back into it, coming out, dipping. I must have done that 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And in between, just seeing if there was any jobs that were kind of resonating with me as well, doing work experience for different companies. And we were having a chat, we were best pals. And he's like, I really want to do this. And, you know, I reckon you and I together can create something cool. And long story short, we found ourselves the owners of a local bar nightclub, which I'm sure you'll know, the Sunrooms, way back when.
Yeah.
You know, so we both went into business together doing that. And we must have, I'm thinking of the timeline again, so that was, what must have been about 26 years old, I jumped into that domain, and I stayed in there for a good 5 to 6 years. And actually, funnily enough, it was being in that environment towards the end of my time there that pushed me more in towards the fitness side of things. Just because, Stephen, I was doing what most late 20-year-old guys do at that point in time, drinking too much, and I was doing a lot of other stuff at the time. You know, a bit of substance abuse, as it were. In no way was it a hook for me, but it was something recreational. But you know, spent too much time doing it. And again, just felt like I didn't quite know probably who I was at that time and what I wanted to be doing.
There's so much. I mean, there's so many different diversities in what you've just shared there. You know, in coming from, you know, studying making jewellery, art. You know, coming from an entrepreneurial family or father. And then, you know, different jobs, building site.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I was always up for trying anything, really. You know, and I didn't, again, I was just, I guess everyone's the same in a way. I mean, I think if I use my wife as an example, she was brought up in a family where you get a job and you get paid and it's safe and it's secure. I was brought up in a more of a risky environment, not in a way where my dad was, you know, sort of earning money and going bust. Nothing like that at all. It was a very straight, successful business my dad owned. He was in the property industry, as it were. And so I'd never seen the highs and lows.
Right.
But what I had seen a lot of growing up, which was more apparent to me in my older years, was a lot of stress. A huge amount of stress. And actually stress being one of the main drivers in the household to kind of, I must be doing more, I must be working more, I must be earning more money, I must be getting better cars, better houses, better holidays. So you do absorb that. You do become conditioned to a certain life that maybe you don't even want, right? Maybe someone else is kind of pushing it onto you without you realize, especially as a lad.
There's so much there of expectations and just absorbing, you know, ancestral stuff, parental stuff.
Completely. And at that point, I had no idea that I was very black and white in the way I thought. I don't think there was a lot of grey with me. I wasn't in any way spiritual. I wasn't in any way, let's separate spirituality from religion. I wasn't anywhere, wasn't Christian, wasn't anything, you know, I was just a bloke. That's the way I looked at it, you know what I mean? And it was black and white. You know, you were happy or you were sad, and that was it.
It sounds like very much like, you was just like, I suppose, like a lot of people just trying to find what felt right, what felt good. It's
funny because when I look back at it now, having a conversation with you, it seems like, I guess, it is another lifetime. It does feel like a million years ago. You know, but again, I'm hugely grateful for all of that. I wouldn't change a thing at all, you know, because I needed to kind of make my own way in the world. And I think what my dad had created, I'm using him as, you know, as a point of this, because he wanted my brother or I to come into the family business. But I think for me, and I think actually at the time, I was like, if I do this, I'm going to actually not have to do much because, well, I will. I'm going to have to work hard, but the money's going to be there because the foundations have been laid. If I don't set a light to it, you know, I'm going to have a happy, successful life. Well, what I would have thought a happy, successful life was back then, because that was just about money. Yeah. It was about, you know, buying a car, buying a house, happy days, going on holidays, and not thinking much of it.
A lot of expectation in society, and you know, from what we're sold of like what a successful life looks like, to have all of those parts in place, and they're all externals, aren't they? It's all about external. I mean, yeah, there's security in that, or the illusion of security at least.
Yeah.
But it's all about, you know, this looks good outside. And,
exactly.
And if you haven't got anything else, then yeah, why not do that?
Well, again, it becomes all external, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We have no idea at that point as well. I had no idea that actually what I was chasing and seeking was always what I had, which was internal kind of, you know, going back and inquiring into myself and kind of stripping myself bare. But I was chasing, I think, like you said, like we all do, these external things to give me the happiness, what I thought was the happiness. And
I think it's a really interesting point just to kind of get under the skin of that journey, because you know, it seems to me you started out with your creativity. Obviously, you got your backdrop of your dad expecting or wanting you and your brother or one of you to go into the business, but then you're going into, like, you know, studying jewellery, art at St Martin's. And it's, yeah, for me, it sounds like then you're kind of, you know, you're in your sovereignty, really, in your space of like, yeah, this is what feels where I want to develop. And then you wind up in a nightclub, you know, running a nightclub, which I'm sure gives, you know, the ego part of our being, you know, a lot of validation.
I was always at conflict though. Inside, always. Even as a kid, Stephen, I had OCD from as young as I can remember, like severe, you know, to the point of where, you know, I was taken to hypnotists, counsellors, all of this, like, you know, bless my parents spending a huge amount of money trying to get to the bottom of this, and I don't know why. And so I always had that internal conflict. Again, which leads me to a conversation I'm sure we'll have further on down the line this morning. But, you know, I was just completely lost. And I always thought of myself as two separate people. Do you know what I mean? Like, and there was the doer, and then there was the other kind of person pulling the strings and telling the doer what to do. Yeah. Like, you know, and that's where this obsessive compulsive nature just manifested. But I was so embarrassed of it that I would hide it. Unbeknownst to me, everyone saw it, but I didn't know that. And the people around me would tread carefully to kind of maybe bring up the subject about it. So, you know, again, going along this kind of life that I was kind of was living as what I was showing externally to my peers, friends, partners, parents, not so much parents, but certainly peers and friends, was this confident guy, externalising a lot, but deep down I was just like battling daily.
It's really, I mean, I can,
you know, heavily battling daily.
Yeah, I can identify with that, but I just didn't have the awareness of the battle, you know.
I think I did and I didn't. I think I did and I didn't. I think I just thought I was a bit different. Again, it was embarrassing, really embarrassing, the obsessive nature, because it wasn't obsessive about obtaining things or you know, it was obsessive about anything on that given day. It was almost like it was popped into my head. It's like, right, today the light switch has got to go off X amount of times, and it would kind of map my day out. And I always thought that, you know, I was like just listening to whatever else was going on up there and just being like, all right, I'll do it. And if I did it, then the day would be a little bit better or a little bit more successful, or, you know, and you kind of just, and then you live in this constant spiral all the time. without realising it, and you don't realise it at all.
Yeah.
And it's quite numbing.
It sounds. I mean, I'm not a psychologist,
No.
but it sounds like, to me, and from my own experience of trying to exert an element of control over my life. It sounds like it comes from that place originally, and
I think you're right. I think it's about control.
Yeah.
And I think I felt so out of control. And again, who knows why?
Well, I mean,
Childhood conditions.
I'd suggest that just having that split in yourself, having a part of you that's one part and a part of you that's another part, that, there's some deep need to try and sort this out, and maybe control was like a coping mechanism for trying to sort that out,
Yeah.
Because that's hard, isn't it, to be split,
I tell you what, it's... I don't feel like I was ever I don't feel like I ever had like a split person. Nothing like that.
No, I'm not talking about that.
No. I know. It was a division that I couldn't see, and I didn't understand what that division was, and I didn't understand why that division was there, and I didn't understand why I was different to my best mate, and why I always questioned everything. Do you know what I mean? It was never like, just be as you are, just get on with it. Yeah. It was always, but why? And again, that was all. And I think we talked off camera. I had the ability to say, no, I'm done. Enough's enough.
Yeah.
Which got that way with the nightclub. Which then took me into. I was like, I'm done with this way of life. I'm done with these late nights, these early mornings. I'm done with feeling like shit. Excuse my language. I'm done with, putting on this guise of whoever I'm trying to be in front of all these punters. And then you could see that mask slipping all the time, because the funny thing is that no one, it got to the point at the end of my career at the nightclub when no one would come near me for a drink. So it was always a busy place. We successfully, financially, we might not have made a success of it, but what we created was amazing, and when I look back at it now, I'm hugely proud of what we did. But going into the point of where I was just, I knew I was setting a light to it in my head. I was being moody, grumpy. I was, at that point, had given up drinking and had slipped into physical training, which I hadn't done up until that point, only, playing around on my skateboards and things like that, because I was always into things like that. And, something was going, no, this isn't right, Ed. We are going to move on from this. And I think the way that we're going to move on from this is just to strike a match under what we're doing now, piss everyone off around you, piss off your business partner, which was a regret because, it was my oldest pal, and find something to move on to. So it was like when I'd made my mind up that I was done. So I was just, like I said, there would never be a queue for me around my area of the bar. There was 2 barmen, me and my best pal. Yeah. The queue for him would be out the door. I'd have no one near me because, I was there for me, it was like, right, I'm doing a job now. I'm trying to make some money. Then I'm going to grow the balls to speak to my business partner and say, I'm done. I've had enough. Buy me out. But that never happened because at that point I didn't face the reality. I was just living it in here, and it was eating me up inside, but without going, actually, Henry, I've had enough. I'm done now, which he would have respected completely. I know that. But for some reason, I just thought that I would just self-sabotage. So there's a lot of that going on as well. There's a lot of self-sabotage. There was a lot of self-sabotage, looking back now throughout my whole life. And then that took me funnily enough, into a different domain at that point. So I did start, I would say, looking after my health and well-being more, but on a physical level. Yep. Not understanding that it was a little bit more to it than that, obviously on the mental side of things. So I really enjoyed, in some aspect, beating myself up, whether that was partying at that point or going into my next endeavour, which was doing a lot of triathlons, endurance events, just trying to break myself. Extreme. So I didn't have to have the feelings that I had. So I didn't have to have this kind of polarising internal compass that was going on. So I think
you kind of, I just want to come in there because
please,
I think for me, I just heard something that's just fundamental, and I really recognise that in my life. Of just, I can look back now at my life and see that I was in some sort of warrior energy that just moved forward, and it was all about, and it tied into that element of control as well.
Yeah.
It was all about not being me, not being with me, not feeling how it felt to be with me, because I didn't know how to do that.
No.
I never developed, there was never the nurturing around me to do that, to be me. And I'm really hearing that coming through from what you've said so far.
I think you're right, Stephen. And, I think I've got a very good relationship with my dad now. I didn't when I was a kid. So if the nurturing side of it came from there, then don't get me wrong, I was in a loving family, but it wasn't a sit down going, how you feeling? What's going on? There's something not right.
Yeah.
It's like, how's school? You getting your grades? What do you want to do with your life? Where's the job going? And it was always, do you know what I mean? It was always that.
And from my point, there's no judgment, because I grew up in a pub, and my dad was who he was and equipped with what he was. So,
for sure.
I hold no judgment on
his
that.
Conditioning is,
exactly.
Yeah.
What I'm kind of really getting to is that what was available wasn't what I needed, really. No. But saying that, when I look back, it's like it's made me who I am today. So this whole learning journey, but that and we'll come back to it. I think that point of not being whole is a
for
big
sure.
part of this. Of like doing all different things in life.
Yeah.
Burning what doesn't work, moving straight on to the next thing. Being relatively successful, but never really taking myself with that journey. And I'm hearing that. Maybe it's projection, but I'm kind of really hearing the underlying similarities, crossovers there of kind of, someone going through life and never really knowing what part of me do I take into this,
That's
if
it.
That makes sense.
And it does make sense. And I lay bare, I mean, I don't care, Steve, I will be as open as I possibly can be with what got me to this point in my life today, because I believe that so many people are dealing with so many different demons that we just, for some reason, don't want to discuss and don't want to just be human with one another. It's funny because, again, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but doing a lot of I read a lot of different philosophy, and one of my favourites, is a fella called Jiddu Krishnamurti. Now, to this point, when I was, going through my kind of journey, I was never reading books but from where I am now, and it's one of his books that stuck with me the most was Freedom from the Known. And I was thinking, and when I first picked it up, I was like, I've got no idea what this is about. But then when I look at how I behave when I'm in the company of someone like you, or anyone in particular, certainly when I'm away travelling, freedom from the known is the most powerful thing that we can have, because there's no judgment whatsoever. I can sit in front of someone that I've never met, I don't know anything about their history or anything like that, so I know nothing about them at all, and can have a human connection and a conversation with someone. And I believe that is so important that we do that, and we're so like, I can't sort of speak to a stranger or anything like that, but I feel like there's the relationships we develop over time and over years in a known environment, in a known domain. We're always going to have judgments. We're always going to have, because we get, without us even wanting to do it, the ego's going to already start to, have that little conversation and a little bit of judgment there. So I've always enjoyed being, again, this is going back into to the work world, being around strangers, because I feel like I can actually be quite transparent.
Yeah, and I think that's what I probably picked up on
Yeah.
when I was overhearing your conversation.
Yeah.
That there was no, it wasn't with judgment. You wasn't being
No.
judged. You was just being open and inviting into, maybe having a look at this perspective is maybe a little bit different to what you're kind of tapped into, and
I try to.
yeah, without any kind of right or wrong to it,
No.
which was really, really powerful.
Yeah, and again, you're trying not to create too much division, with whoever you're kind of conversing with or yourself, because it's, as we know, as soon as there's any division, there's the conflict.
Yeah.
And going back into the world of work, from that point where I was starting to get into the physical training myself, and again, just doing something that would numb it, I guess it was more of a numbness that I was trying to achieve, and probably as well, looking back then, it was driven by ego. It was like, oh, have you seen what Ed's doing? He's kind of like, he's not doing that anymore. He's doing triathlons. He's doing martial arts, blah, blah, blah. Of course. So it was, there was definitely, let's put the mask back on. Let's see this confident guy, not confident at all, doing all these things. And so I was constantly hiding behind stuff all the time. And, it became a big part of my life, physical. And then from that point on, the creative bubble was still sort of winking at me, and I was like, well, I need to be in a creative industry. That's where I kind of see myself. And I moved into men's fashion. So it was from, obviously, we started at St Martin's. We've gone into, I guess a creative space, been a nightclub, because you put your stamp on it, you get the bands and the DJs you like, and you're creating a brand, right? And you're pushing that brand out onto other people and hoping people buy into that brand. So that led me on to the menswear clothing, and I actually had a menswear clothing store online and a physical store. And that gave me that kind of creative outlet again. And that was great. And it was all, thought like what I wanted to do and everything like that. And my pal and I went into business together. And again, it was just that nagging feeling of, this isn't quite right. This doesn't, you know what I mean? It's not resonating with me. I'm enjoying it, but it's not giving me that purpose, maybe. Maybe that was what, maybe
why
the why. Yeah, exactly. Maybe, I knew that it wasn't authentic. But again, I was just pushing that to the side, being like, be quiet. Let's just do this. It's a job. It means to an end. And whilst I was doing that, sitting alongside it, I was pushing myself more into the physical training. So it went from being like let's call it an endurance athlete, triathlon, running, swimming, and then I was going into the gym. More so lifting weights as whatever we would look at as a and again starting to look good with the t-shirt off, that kind of thing, so ego driven. And then I wasn't happy with where I was with work. And then I secretly, didn't tell my wife, I applied for a scholarship to become a personal trainer. I was thinking, actually, I do really enjoy this, I really enjoy training, and I really enjoy, I love learning. Yeah. Like I do love learning. And I know I love learning what I want to learn. So was I a good student at school? Yeah, to a point of where I wanted to be. But if I didn't like the subject, I was a total arse. But I knew that I enjoyed it. So I applied for this scholarship, didn't tell my wife, and they, at that time, 13 years ago, the main question was, because it was still quite a difficult industry to get into back then, and it wasn't cheap. I think the course back about 13 years ago was about $8,000, which I didn't have. And anyway, this was like, become a personal trainer, scholarship for, on us. I was like, what have I got to lose? So I applied online, and I think the main question was, like, what can you bring to the industry with a different tone of voice? And I remember putting down at the time, well, I'm an endurance athlete, so what I look at as a personal trainer, when I'm on the gym floor, is a big muscly guy in a vest, sort of barking at you and getting you to, bulk up or whatever it might have been at that point. And I said, well, my take on it is, it's about longevity and about, creating like a more endurance, physical endurance. So I guess at that point, without knowing where I wanted to be, to where I wanted to see myself within the industry at that point, it was kind of just what was coming out of me from an internal point of view, I guess, and what I believe I could give to the industry with a different tone of voice. And whatever I'd written at the time had obviously resonated with the guy, and I got a phone call saying, you got it, it's yours. Yeah. So, again, I think it comes back again. Insecurity played a big role in this, because obviously I didn't even tell anyone that I was doing it. I didn't tell my wife, for goodness sake. And we're best pals, so it's like I was like, I'm never going to get it. Why would they give it to me? And then when I got it, I was like, oh right, okay, here we go. So at that point, I shifted over slowly into doing back at school, I guess you want to call it. It was based in Colchester. It was a 6 months course, and I was still working at the shop, but also studying part-time, and just going through the process of learning again.
Was there any self-care in this process?
No, zero.
Nothing at all?
Nothing. No. It was like a cortisol-driven hell. Right. Like in a way where burn yourself out at work, then go home, study, burn yourself out, externalize all of your woes onto your loved ones, like we do too much. I'm having a bad day, therefore you're having a bad day, by the way. Looking after my animals, because I'm a big animal lover, so I had dogs. A lot going on, a lot of plates spinning, and earning no money either, because the shop enabled me to take a small wage, but nothing that was going to set the world alight. So I was trying to manage all of this going on, no self-care whatsoever. Yeah. My self-care at that point, I thought, was physical training, like I said before we jumped on camera. But what I didn't realise, that I was just taking on another stress, a huge stress as well, because I wasn't just going to the gym for an hour. I was doing, 10-mile, 20-mile runs, swimming. What I would do is I would run to the gym, which was about, I guess, 5 mile there, 5 mile back. I would do my hour session. I'd run back. So let's say I've done maybe 10 miles and an hour in the gym, and all before, probably 7 a.m. Yeah. And then I'd either be at work or I'd be driving to Colchester, and then I would do it all again in the evening. To me,
Ed, like, it's just like another phase of life, trying to escape.
It's it's another layer of covering up whatever needed to be uncovered, which I had no idea of what that was.
Did you? I mean, and that's a whole journey, isn't it? Trying to get to actually, what's important in this life, and not saying that these other things aren't important, but did you crash at all?
Yeah, massively. Yeah, big time.
You willing to talk about that?
Yeah, without a doubt. Like I said, hopefully I'll be as open as I can be. I don't want to jump, I don't want to confuse people with the timelines of things.
No, I'm just thinking that, because
I can race forward if you like.
In my life, I went on for years and years and years just in this trajectory, but
I did, same.
It's like, it's, and I think we've given a really good kind of overall overview to people so far of, how your life's progressed and what's been going on the surface. Yeah. And what's going on underneath is a completely different story.
Yeah.
And in my life, there was some real big catalysts when I kind of blew up and I just wanted to step off. You know what I mean?
Me too.
Because it was too much. But
same.
Yeah.
Completely. So,
I mean, I don't want to chop your timeline up.
No. I don't want to go chronologically for everything, but I think that it's quite important where we kind of creep onto of how I did start to go down a different road, let's call it.
Sure.
And then once I had become qualify, which was amazing. You know, I was very happy about that. And I think, you know, if I look back at it now, as you know, maybe a bystander and look at why I was happy, I think I was happy because I maybe finally achieved something. I finally seen something through, and I think that's the whole point as well. Like, can I commit to something? Like, why have I got this commitment problem? I had this commitment problem with relationships. I'd set a light to them. If things got good, I'd cheat, you know, or I'd do something like that, or I would just be a wally. I just couldn't commit to anything fully 100%. So I was really happy that I managed to commit to that. And I'm certain that there was a big part of me that was trying to prove a point to my dad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I can do this, Dad, on my own.
Yeah.
I don't actually need to take the family business on because I can cut my own path, kind of thing. And I've finally done it. You know what I mean? Because I've qualified at something that I've been studying for. So I think there was always a case of seeking external improvement at all times. You know, like, well done, you did a triathlon. Well done, you've done this. Well done. So it was always like, really seeking validation in one form or another. And I absolutely was all in with the physical domain. So personal training, let's call it. I was completely and utterly all in. All my eggs were in that basket. And I knew it. I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do indefinitely long term. Like, not like, oh, how long is this going to last? Like, I was buzzing for it. And because I was buzzing for it, I'm a dog with a bone. If I want something, I will work my, hind off to get it. And because at that point I thought that I had found the thing, the one, I ran with it, and I worked very hard to build up a business. So, timeline again. Now we're 13 years ago. I was studying, and then I qualified. Once I qualified, I felt very nervous, like hugely nervous. I was like, what do I do now? Like, I'm not ready to train people. This is ridiculous. I've only done this for 6 months. I could do a lot of harm here. So I got a part-time job, and whilst running a part-time job, I was still studying in the background. And I said to my wife, I'm not ready to take on any clients for about another year. So I'd given myself about 12 months to fine-tune what I believed I was good at, kind of within the industry. Yeah. Because as Stephen, within the fitness world, you've got lots of different training modalities, right? You've got someone who wants to look great with their t-shirt off on a summer holiday. You've got someone that wants to commit to a marathon. You've got someone that's a professional athlete. So you've got lots of different aspects in that world. So I was trying to figure out then who I wanted to be in that world. Like, where does Ed sit in this kind of environment? So that's why I kind of took that year out to kind of find out what my niche might be. And so running another job and building up clients. And then in the background, when social media, Instagram was probably in its infancy 13 years ago, I imagine. I can't remember, but I know I was on it. And I thought, what I'll do is I'll just drip feed information. But I was the guy, I'd write a post and I'd sit on that post for 4 days. And I would agonise over it. I would ruminate over it. I would edit it 100 times. And I would just be like, so almost sort of turn away and just press play. Like, it's out there now, I've done it, it's in the domain. But the amount of times I deleted things like that. Yeah. But sometimes I delete them through the OCD. Like, Ed, if you don't delete it, you're not going to get any clients. I was like, okay, right, better delete that one. Even if it was good. So that was still in the background. It was still, the puppet master was still telling me what to do. And I was always listening, always. And because I didn't know how to push back. I didn't know how to take control. So over that year, I was building up clients, which I got, which was lovely. And there was a local gym, and it was called Evolution Gym, and it's no longer around. Fantastic facility. It was probably the biggest gym outside of London. The fella that started it was a successful bodybuilder, so it's a very bodybuilder sort of centric gym. Everyone looked good in there, kind of vibe. Massive old warehouse, 1,000 members, huge place. And I walked in there, and my brother used to train there. My brother's, we're chalk and cheese, as in like physicality, like he's a unit, and I'm sort of, you know, straight up and down kind of thing at that point. So he said, why don't you speak to the owner and just have a chat with him and see if he's up for having you in there and having your kind of different take on things. So I did. I had a chat with him and I said, this is what I'm doing. Can I start my business here? He said, yeah, why not? Like, you know, if you bring more members in, then happy days.
Yeah.
So that was obviously my goal then was, I was always a people pleaser as well. So I took on more burden because I thought, right, now I need to bring him more members, but also build up my client base. So I'm not just thinking about myself now, I'm thinking about him, trying to build his business as well. So I was always, again, on this kind of people pleasing, you know, kind of secular thing as well that I was always trying to do. Yeah. And again, looking back, always people pleasing, but then on the flip side, setting a light to things that weren't working. So I was always in a bit of a moral quandary. And then so I was there for a period of time, loved it, built up a great business, a great client base, met some wonderful people, started to understand my niche in the industry. And then he kind of turned around and said, Ed, you know, unfortunately, the gym's gone, it's done, because I'm only leasing it, renting it, and the landlord wants to turn it into a block of flats. I was like, shit, what am I going to do now? It's the first time someone's turned the tables on me. Normally I'm walking away from things.
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, what do I do? And I was like, I'm not ready to walk away from the industry, like no way. But I was also vehemently against online personal training. Like I loathed it at that point. I was like, who on earth would do that? Who on earth would pay someone money to get a program sent to them by email? Because, you know, apps and that weren't really developed enough then to build an app. So there wasn't that personal touch. I was like, no, I'm not going to go online. I want to have boots on the ground. I want to have that human connection. I want to see, I was so passionate about what I did and about making sure everything was perfect in a way, like the form was good, that you wouldn't injure yourself. So I was really investing myself into every client, possibly too much, but I wanted to make sure I was, you know, doing a good job. So I refused to go online at that point. So I needed to find myself another gym to work out of. I got offered a few different places, and I was like, no, I don't want to work for anyone else. You know, my dad in my ear saying, you know, son, if you want to make a success, you've got to work for yourself. So here we are at ROM now, which is my gym, which, you know, you come to, Stephen, and that we took ROM on in 2019.
Right.
And then 6 months later, come the pandemic, where everything changed for me. Everything. You know, my whole world flipped, snatched away, and Mr. Control Freak, lost all control, you know. So that was for me the big turning point in my life, the pandemic. Not just on a business level, but on a personal level as well.
Yeah.
Because I was like, hang on a sec, I can lose everything. What have I got? You know, I thought everything was physical. I thought everything was tangible. I thought, if I can't pick it up, it doesn't exist. You know, and I've lost everything. I've lost my business overnight.
Right.
What am I going to do? I don't want, I've got no, I'm not happy with myself. I couldn't sit in silence. I always needed noise. You know, I always needed a distraction, I guess. And that had all been taken away. And I've got to look at, as we said earlier, I've got to look in the mirror and see what's looking back. And I was like, oh, I've never had to do that before.
I think that was a great opportunity, as you know, difficult as it was for a lot of people. You know, the way that I viewed that at the time is like most of the world just stopped at the same time, and everyone just stopped doing what they was doing, and there suddenly was this time and space for everybody to really kind of take stock. And I know there was a lot of fear around, and you've spoke to that about what am I going to do, the business, blah, blah, blah. But I find that it's probably not in human history has that happened before, where like the whole world has just stopped.
Yeah.
And then, you know, what's created in that space. And I'm sure you're going to, you know, tell me what was created for you, but I think it was just such a powerful experience of like, wow, you know, what are we all doing here? We're all charging around like lunatics,
I know.
and, you know, disconnected from ourselves, disconnected from even our families, communities, because we're so busy trying to, you know, get it right, to sort it out, to be a winner, whatever it, you know, whatever the motivation is, and you know that's run throughout your journey and kind of throughout mine as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what was the gift out of that for you?
I was so angry, Stephen, to begin with. Like, I was so unbelievably angry. You know, I feared for myself. I've never been good at being told what to do, and I've never been good with authority. You know, I've always pushed back hard on it. I've never said, "Oh, okay." You know, I've always like, "Whoa, what's going on here? This doesn't seem right to me." That was the first thing I thought. After my business went, I was like, "Hang on a sec. This seems a bit extreme." Do you know what I mean? Like, so the part of me that's always, I guess, busy, became busy at going down, let's call them rabbit holes. That's all I'm going to say about what was going on, right?
Yeah.
On a level where being told what to do and what we should be doing and what we should be taking and how we should be behaving and who we should be seeing and how, you know, and how we should be behaving as human beings, just doing what we want to do. And so that made me extremely angry that someone just said, "You're done. Your gym's shut. Just deal with it," kind of thing. So the last time I put the news on or picked up a newspaper was 2020, March 2020, when it happened. That's it. I never touched it since, never looked at it since, kept myself completely separate from it. Because at that point, I was like, I now need to start, something doesn't feel right. I was deeply unhappy, deeply depressed, for sure, and thought, I'm kind of done. I'm checking out. I've had enough. I don't want to be here anymore. I love my wife dearly. I love my dogs. I love my family, but we haven't got a hugely, like, you know, tight-knit family, as it were, comparatively to what my wife has. So I'm out of here. You know, I'll call it a day. I've done what I need to do, I think, and that was it. And then me being probably at that point, I think I was too scared to do anything about anything, Stephen. I think I was too scared to call it a day. You know what I mean? And
Had you sort of considered it or planned it or thought about it?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Don't get me wrong. I was in and out of it. I dipped in and I dipped out of it, if you know what I mean. It wasn't like I didn't make my mind up. But I knew that...
It was there as an option.
It was there as an option. But the anger side of things towards myself, again, you know, as within, so without, I was projecting onto everyone. To a point, at one point in my life, something straw that broke the camel's back was so minor that I turned it into a huge event. And I went outside my house. It was Christmas Eve, you know, in the lockdown. Went out, it was cold, went out in a t-shirt and trousers. And because I couldn't handle like the whole social distancing thing. I struggle with that a lot. And everything like that, I really struggle with it. And so I went out and I just went out looking for a fight. That was it. I just went for a walk. I walked for hours and hours just to find someone to have a row with. You know what I mean? Because I was wearing it on my face. And you know, it's like when you're kind of giving that energy over, you feel like someone's going to pick up on it who's having a bad day. Yeah. Let's both have a bad day. Let's have a scrap and so be it. And didn't happen, of course. And funnily enough, that was December. of course, because it was Christmas Eve. And then come February of the following year, we could start to travel, couldn't we? I believe, in some respect. And we decided at the time to go to Mexico. So, we thought, well, what else can we do? We can get away. We can fly once all the rules had been relaxed. I think, if I remember rightly, I don't remember the timeline. Went to Mexico. Long story short, sat on the plane next to Bex, my wife, and I said, you know what? This holiday, I'm going to say yes to everything, which is not like me. At that point anyway, I wasn't really, comfortable with putting myself in situations which I couldn't control. But I was like, I'm gonna let the guard down this trip, and I'm just gonna do whatever. So we went there, and that opened the door to just this wonderful journey of self-discovery, and it was just amazing. And kind of like from the minute we got there, it's funny how life works. People kind of gravitate towards you, and it was funny. We went to like a beach bar, or it was like a yoga club basically, and it seemed really just chilled and nice, and just everyone was on the beach, just being cool really, and just enjoying each other's company. And we got there, and I was a bit like, oh, this is a bit like my comfort zone, but I'm kind of excited in a way. And Bex went to the loo, and she came back, and there was two women sitting next to me. Bex was like, what's happening here? And they said, we're so and so, and one of the ladies' name was Veronica, who I still keep in contact with, and I don't remember the other lady's name, but they just said, your husband's got some real energy around him. We just felt like we had to come and chat to him and see what his deal was. And at that time I was thinking, who are these two charlatans? What are they trying to sell me? Like what am I being pulled into here? And it was really beautiful because they didn't want anything. They wanted nothing. They just wanted to why are we here? Like, what's our purpose here? Like, what are we? I think everyone was kind of in the same boat, as it were, being in that part of the world, if I can say that. And so we were just having conversations, and then I was being very honest, because again, freedom from the known. No one knows me. I can do what I want, say what I want, and if there's judgment there, that I won't see him ever again. So who cares? And they actually helped me. They went, well, why don't you try this kind of like, there's a guy over there that does this kind of, like a sound bath. I was like, I don't know what that is, but I'll give that a bash. And then that guy over there does, I can't remember what it was at the moment. It was like a vibration healing. And I was thinking, crikey, all this kind of hippy dippy stuff. And it wasn't me at all, because I was like, so kind of physically driven, and again, it wasn't tangible to me. So, but I thought, I'm doing it. Anyway, that trip just opened so many doors for me.
Yeah, it sounds like it really exposed you to, just some different ways to be, really.
Yeah.
And just to kind of trace that back into like your beginning of your kind of your journey of not looking at the word consciousness, but your journey of just creativity. It seems like what I've heard is that was there in the beginning, and then you've gone through this whole trajectory of life of trying to be in control and trying to make it go your way, and trying to work, and then the rest of society is reflecting back to you that listen, this is all right, this is the way to go, and then you come to a point of nearly wanting to check out because it's too much, really. It's too much. And then you find yourself in a place where there's just some different energy. There's some softness. There's some gentleness.
That's exactly
there's some just heart energy, maybe.
That's what it was.
And sometimes I think, that's what we need to really open us up a little bit and change our...
100%.
Like, what am I doing, what is this about?
All this, just chasing this just external stuff, and I'm thinking, I need less noise. I want to be empty, and not in a way where I'm like void of emotion, or I don't want to consume more. I want to start stripping, you know, like an onion. I want to just get through the layers, and I want to know myself so well. I want to know every trigger that I've got, you know. I want to give back now in a way where I've done this, you know, this journey of self-discovery, this constant journey of self-discovery, this daily journey.
It's ongoing for sure.
It's, you know, it's a daily thing, and I'm really now where I am in my life and my work. I'm as passionate now about the mindset aspect, let's call it, more than I am with the physical aspect. You know, I feel like we can be as physically strong as we want. We can be, you know, have all this bravado. But if we're, and I don't want to use the word because I feel like it's not the right word to use, but if we're mentally weak, you know, or let's say if we don't know what makes us tick, then we're not whole.
And I think that's the word that was in my kind of mental vocabulary about being whole. And I think, you know, listening to this journey that you've been on and where you're at now, it's about, you know, you started out with being two separate parts, you know.
That's it.
And I think it's about, and certainly for my own journey, it's been about, you know, moving the stuff out the way that I've learned that didn't serve me, which you've just kind of spoke to all throughout of that, learning, you know, leaving stuff behind and moving away. And then getting to the place of wholeness. But then, you know, it's not like job done.
No, it's not.
How do I integrate this into how I'm showing up in the world? How do I integrate this wholeness into what I'm doing in life? You know, service, you know, I just heard you talking about being of service and wanting to, you know, change just a physical thing to like a well-being thing, not just a mental thing even. It's like, and I suppose not a great deal of people are generally in society into this, but into like connection with their own deep self, their own deep spirit, you know?
I mean, that's it. And for me, Stephen, when it comes to, if we look at it from a physical domain, training domain, we're losing personal sovereignty. We're losing our inner compass, right? We're losing all of that intuition that we have, that we don't realise we have, because we're externalising that everything now on a digital level. You know, I'm hugely passionate about what I do, but also the kind of what I would class as these devices that which would be a readiness to train, let's call them, like the straps about sleep scores, things like that. I'm like, this is not where the industry needs to be. Again, you're creating too much noise. What the industry needs is less noise. What the industry needs is sitting alongside the physical training with the understanding of the self, of yourself, right? Of becoming whole. And how can we do that if the first thing we wake up in the morning is check a device or see how well we've slept, or, you know what I mean? Like, all we're doing, again, is giving away what we have, our power. And our power is our own. We're you know, we are an island. It's about sovereignty of ourselves. Yeah,
and I really hear that. It's like, I mean, the alternative to that is what I try to do in the morning is wake up and then be in silence and a bit of meditation. A little bit of prayer. It's not about any religion or anything like that. It's just about surrendering to the flow of like,
well, that's it, isn't it?
Of where life's led me at this point, when I've learned to let go of all these things that really I thought, you know, I could control but didn't serve me, and you know, and then I think a really important part, which is what I really like what you're sharing about now, is integrating that into a way that it can be offered to other people as like, maybe, you know, invite you into this rather than wake up in the morning and then it's about bang, 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 bang. have I met all these external things? How well did I sleep? Da 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 da. Mental, ticking it all up.
That's it.
I'm winning, but but you're not, because you're losing straight away.
You are.
It's really got to be about that.
And I don't want
wholeness, I think.
Yeah, and I don't want to be. Again, I don't want to create an ego around spirituality either, and going, where I am now is like, I'm not trying to do that. I'm like, I'm trying to kind of almost certainly with myself, but now, if I look at it in a way where, from an industry standpoint, is just make it simple, make it easy to understand, not complicated. Not saying you need to go and sit on top of a hill, and be in silence for 5 years to understand who you are. You can understand who you are immediately, but there's certainly protocols you need to use to do that. So the self-realization is something that isn't something to be attained. It's something instantaneous. You know what I mean? Because we are who we are. We aren't. I don't know, for whatever reason. Again, I still obviously the OCD will always be there because it's a compulsion. But again, I welcome it now. I welcome it every day with open arms, because it's part of who I am. It's not separate of who I am, and I just watch it, and I don't try and control it. And I think the biggest thing for me, the takeaway for me, is that there's no judgment, there's no control, there's no trying to change the outcome. It's just surrender, but not in a passive way, but just in a way of impermanence, right? It's going to pass.
Yeah. And I think, that really does sum it up, that, you said, we've all got, it's instantaneous, and I believe that everybody's got access to whatever they need within themselves.
Yep.
And, this whole conversation which we've had, which has been really beautiful, has been a brilliant kind of demonstration of you, like, talking about your life of not being able to be whole, feeling separate, and then going on this whole journey of trying to figure it out and sort it out and control it.
Yep.
And then eventually getting back to the part of, like, actually, I'm enough. I just need to be me. But there's so much noise out there, as you said. It's hard for people to get that space and time to actually realise that, I'm okay, I'm enough.
Yeah.
And there's so many mechanisms that we build in our lives, and I built them, and I've, you've spoke about you building them, then you've spoke about kind of unlearning them, and that's what I've had to do in life to become back to that whole that, it doesn't have to be it's enough exactly what we got here. And
I think you're right, Stephen. I think we think that there's going to be some like big, fireworks display when we're finally happy, and when we finally we realise that we're enough. But it's not that. Yeah. There's not that. The happiness is always there, and me especially, just and I think we said it a minute ago. It's a daily journey. It's not like you hit a goal and that's it. And I'm awake and I'm this wonderful glowing being. No. I still have, like we all do, like these thoughts that they've got nothing to do with me, but they come and go, and I watch them come and go, and I watch these moods come and go, and I watch these, it hasn't made me into this enlightened being. It's made me really comfortable with that. It's made me comfortable with not being perfect.
Yeah.
It's made me comfortable with just being in the skin I'm in.
And that's the only place we can be, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
So it really is not about, once again, trying to escape who we are. No. It's about being who we are.
Yeah.
And we're in these bodies, we're in here for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's lovely to, be able to kind of start filtering out that noise that you was talking about, and then just kind of, just being able to drop into, like, I can observe all this stuff.
Yeah.
I can observe these patterns that I've had that used to, like, pull me from pillar to post in life. And, I'm talking about you, but I'm talking about me as well, because,
Yep.
You know,
And giving control to it, right?
I went through life, seeking addiction as a solution and many different things,
Yeah.
and the solution was finding me, and allowing me to be me.
Yep.
And I think we've just had such a beautiful conversation.
I mean, I just want to just say as well, Steve, if anyone is listening that needs a bit of help with this obsessed, because I feel like OCD is really still stigmatized, and it's something that I'm really kind of passionate. I'm not a psychologist at all, but I've built the tools to deal with it, and I've integrated that into my daily rituals, let's call them. Want of a better word, like you said about the start of the day, in the middle of the day, at the end of the day, making sure that we're lining that up properly. That's definitely what I've been over the years of this, from maybe 2020 or 2021 to where I am now, 2026. I've just been working, in the background of building this kind of, not document, but a format to try and help myself, but unbeknownst to me, to now hopefully deliver this to people that also want to find out and explore a little bit more, and integrate that with the physical aspect, and I feel like it was always meant to happen. I feel like that was always what I was meant to do in the industry. It just took a bit of time to uncover it.
And it does, and I think really the point is that when I look at this stuff, we're talking about lifetimes. But fortunately, you don't have to go to the end of our life in these blind patterns.
No.
They can be interrupted.
Yes.
We can change, and it's a brilliant example. And I love what you're talking about. And we haven't really got too much time to go into more of that, but just I think it is about that personal journey of coming to where we come to, and then you're in an industry that you can help and you can serve people, and to integrate what you want to do into that is beautiful, and that's being a service. That's the gift, that's the gift that comes from our own personal journeys of discovery, because they're never about, okay, it's done me, lovely, let's sail off into the sunset.
Happy days.
It's about, and that's why I'm sitting here having this conversation. It's about what can we offer out there to people, to support people, to encourage people, invite people in to different ways, and especially all the systems that are just really not serving many people in this life now.
And I think, Stephen, look at where we are now, as a country, but as a world, how are we going to help each other? The only way that we can really help each other, because we can't do anything about the political side of things, the only way that we can be better to one another is understanding who we are, and doing the work, doing that internal work, because otherwise we do walk around externalizing all of our bullshit, and and that it makes it even more of a hostile environment to be in, so if we can just do a little bit more self-inquiry and understand what makes us tick and what triggers us, and actually just be a little bit more vulnerable, then I just believe we're just living a better society, because then we slowly wake people up on that organic way where we start conversations, and hopefully a person will start going on their journey, and then they start a conversation, and all of a sudden these conversations start spreading out, and that's the only thing that we can do. I think it's the only service that we can have.
It's collaboration, not competition.
This is it. Yeah, 100%.
Beautiful, mate. Yeah. And definitely, I mean, I'm interested in what you're doing, and we'll talk about it after.
Yep.
And I've got some, I'm working on the screenplay, and it's about just bringing people to the table, like what we've been talking about here.
Yep.
In a way that's accessible, and but I'm interested in your methods and what you're sorting out, whatever that is, and and I'm kind of aligned to actually people like us need to get together, and there's a lot of other people out there that can come into a collective of collaboration where maybe we can offer an alternative to, especially like the young people are growing up.
100%.
And the people that really don't need to go through this whole journey of their own lives to get there, if they can learn from, you know, someone else's lived
Yeah.
experience, you know. So I think that's so powerful.
Yeah, if we can build an ecosystem, you know, and that's it, right? You build the ecosystem of what we've discussed, and then let that just expand. And if it can touch grassroots, if it can touch the nippers, you know, I mean, Lord knows I needed it at that point, and we all do. Then again, it can only help.
Yeah.
It can only help.
Ed, it's been an absolute pleasure talking
Thanks, Stephen.
to you.
Yeah, and you. Thank you so much.
Just to remind people, the podcast is going to be on YouTube at Cockney Profit. It's going to be on all of the audio platforms. So it's the Cockney Guide to Enlightenment podcast. Ed, where can people follow what you're doing, and how can people access, you know?
Yeah, so obviously if they're local, I've got the gym, Rom Gym, which the Instagram is Rom Gym Essex.
Yeah.
I'm now on different platforms, but my main platform would be at Range of Motion Coach at Instagram. I'm not quite onto the YouTubing just yet, but I'm a little bit behind with things like that, so I will catch up. But yeah, so to get in contact with me, I run the Instagram, so we can have conversations, and I welcome it for sure.
Yeah.
At any time.
Beautiful. And obviously all Ed's links will be in the notes on the podcast, so check them and you'll be able to get in contact with Ed.
Yep.
And just let us know what you think about this conversation.
Yeah, please.
I think it's really valuable, and it's been a really good one.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. I really, really, really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Lots of love, mate.
Yeah,
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.